name is Lady Pruitte, and today I'm so happy that I have one of my daughters joining me. It's Deanna Randolph. Hi, Deanna. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Well, today we are going to talk about a topic, and you may say it's a dreaded topic for us ladies who love to shop. We're going to talk about budgeting. Budgeting. It's unfortunately, budgeting seems to be something that they don't really teach us about. I mean, do you remember? I was going to say, do you remember your mother actually sitting you down and explaining how to budget for you? It's not something that's kind of passed down from generation to generation, but it's something that's so important and so crucial. I don't remember passing it on to my daughters, but I do remember at a point in my time, it wasn't passed down to me either, but there was a point in time where I felt that I had to budget. And it's because money was very, very tight. So I needed to budget. So today I brought with me my expert daughter on budgeting. Yes. And I am going to let her tell you what she does for a living and how she obtained her love of numbers.
So like she said, I'm Deanna Randolph. I am currently a budget analyst for the federal government. I've been in government finance for about 12 years now. I did graduate with a Bachelor of Science in accounting. And how I came to have a love for numbers, I don't know. I kind of always have flocked to numbers. I've kind of always loved just math and dollars. I remember being a little girl and always saying, when I grow up, I want to be a money manager. And I never knew what it was. And I remember even telling my mom one day, I was like, I can't wait till, I said, I can't wait to get a job so I can pay bills. And she was like, no, you don't. And I was like, no. I was like, you don't understand. I'm like, because it's so easy. I'm like, you just have, you have one number that you get in your paycheck. And then when all the expenses come in, you can just subtract it from there. I'm like, it's been so cool. I used to have a little ledger. I don't even know where I found it. But going through her purses, I found like a little ledger and I started doing stuff there and I thought it was so cool. And she says, yeah, well, one day it's going to come a time where the income doesn't exceed the expenses.
Yes.
And I was like, oh, what a challenge.
Yes.
So no one would ever possibly do that. They can't do that to you at your job. But yeah, I've always been flocked to numbers.
Yes. And another thing about you was I remember you would passwords. Okay. Everybody has a password. Usually you have a word or a word with a combination of numbers. She would have all numbers.
I can never remember letters.
Because she says she can't remember letters. But me, I would be like, I would say, Deanna, what's your password? And she'd be like, 15648. And I'm like, what in the world? I said, how do you remember that? I said, there's no way I can remember, but she remembers numbers. I could never remember numbers. But again, numbers are important. Budgeting, and like I said, unfortunately, it's not something that we're taught as young children, and it's something that we don't seem to pass on to our children. But it's such an important skill to have. Yeah. It's a very important skill. I started budgeting. When I was married, my husband and I were very young. We married very young. And early on, he handled all the bills. He did everything that had to do with finance. He's more of a numbers person also. But then later on, he said, honey, why don't you do the budgeting? Especially because I was stay at home and he was working. So I said, okay, I started doing it. And I noticed that the more I did it, the more I enjoyed it.
Yes.
Believe it or not.
Yes.
I actually enjoyed it. And also because, there wasn't a lot of finances to work with, I had to learn really how to scrimp and scrange and, kind of
that's the fun part.
Things around and figure out how to make ends meet from month to month, week to week, as he got paid. So, he would just kind of turn over the check and I would be like, okay, we're able to do this part, what can wait, and what cannot wait. But one of the things that I think is important is living within your means.
Yes.
And so let's talk a little bit about why people don't live within their means.
I think a few things. I think one is you see what everyone else has, right? And I mean, that's biblical, right? You you see that folks have 2 cars and folks have these big houses and, they've got, all of the fancy new gadgets and, the newest, latest phone that comes out, and you want that too. You're in that part of that society. And so you want those things too. But sometimes your expenses don't match up with your income that way. I think another reason why people don't live within their means is because they were never taught that financial literacy.
Okay.
And so a lot of folks, I remember someone told me one time, and I'd already known it, but never really thought of it that way. They were like, credit cards and credit, it's not income.
Right.
It's not income. But because credit and loans and personal loans are so easy to get now, and then they target people that are financially illiterate. So then it's really easy to get, and then folks like me, who's like, penny pincher, it's why would you not give me a loan? Because I'm not going to make any money off of you. I think because of that financial illiteracy and credit being so easy to get and obtain.
And they start so young. They start so young because
here's the credit card in college and high school. Here's the credit card, and just pay it off when you can. And look, the minimum balance is only $20. Hey, I can afford $20.
Yeah, of course.
And then you start treating it like income, and then it becomes a habit. And next thing you know, I can't afford any of this, and then you don't know how to readjust to figure out how to live within or below your means.
Yeah, and it's a difficult thing for people to understand too. To live within their means. One of the things that we did as we were, coming up with raising a family and everything, we would always have a decent place to live, but where we decided to kind of skimp on was not going out and buying us the latest and greatest vehicle.
Okay.
As you may know, some of the vehicles that we have, I don't even know if we would call them vehicles. Some of you may call them hoopies, or some of them weren't even hoopies; they were just hoop. There wasn't enough to be a host. We couldn't afford the tea. Oh my God. But we decided that to us it was important to live in a nice, safe environment, and we can deal with the cars. And any cars that we bought, we always paid it straight out in cash. So they were used cars. We paid it in cash because we decided this is how we had to do it in order to not get ourselves into a lot of financial debt. And I remember the very first car that we got with payments was the Lincoln Town car. That was the very first car that we got, that we actually got payments, and the payments were low enough that it wasn't a financial struggle for us. So I really enjoyed that. Yes, I love that car too. Me too. I still do. My first car. But another thing is, have you found that when people, as some people say, wow, if only I can get a raise or an increase, I'll get out of this kind of financial, like you can never see. But what tends to happen to people when they actually get the raise or get the
your expenses increase. Your expenses increase. Every time your income increases, magically your expenses increase. And I'm noticing in this area specifically that the income raises don't always line up with the inflation, don't always line up with the cost of living increases. And so even if you're like, okay, I'm not going to change anything at all about my spending habits. So you think, but I'm not going to change anything at all about my spending habits, but now gas is $5 a gallon. Things that you can't control, the cost of living increases, and your income is not increasing as quickly as some of these other things are. That's one part of it. And then the other part of it is once you see that increase, you're like, yes, I can finally afford, and then those
the next thing, right?
Yes,
and that's exactly. And I think, unfortunately, is that we have these bad spending habits, and that's kind of what we pass on to our children. And not necessarily that we say, hey, spend your money on this. It's just that they watched us. Whenever we got money, we go buy something else. Or we do, hey, we're all going to go out to eat, or we're all going to do this, or we're all going to do that. We're going to take a trip. Instead of saying, sitting them down and saying, hey, this is how you save money. And let's talk a little bit about saving money. I've always been a saver. I love to save money. And it's funny because sometimes as you live your life, you get married, sometimes your spouse is a spender and you're the saver, or he's the saver and you're the spender. So that kind of sometimes, it's a little difficult when you have kind of like that little imbalance there. But I think sometimes it's the good thing is that if you have two savers, that's great. And if you have a saver and spender, you can kind of work it out. But if you have a spender and spender,
y'all in trouble.
yes, that's what we fall. That's, I think, where we really fall in trouble. But how important have you found it to spend? Because I noticed
Spend or save.
Excuse me, save, to be a saver. Because I remember as you guys were growing up, you were always a saver.
Yes.
Like always, anytime. We would say, hey, you guys have money? She would always have money. We had two other daughters, I won't say their names, who were always spending money.
In one hand and goes out.
Yes, it went out. And sometimes it went out before they even got into their Yes.
Yes.
And you were very frugal too. So
Yeah.
even if we went out to eat, if I said, hey, everybody's going Dutch,
I'll take a water.
exactly. That's exactly what she would do. That's exactly what she would do. Yes, that's exactly what she would do. And she would order some of the least expensive thing on the menu.
Whatever it, chicken, the hamburger, cheeseburger and fries. I'll get the kids menu if I can. Absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But now why do you feel like you always had that urge to save money?
For me, growing up is different than how I am now. But growing up, the whole reason was always because I always thought there was going to come a time where I would need it and I wouldn't have it. And so because of that fear, I'm like, I always want to make sure I at least have something. And so if it was ever, hey, you guys want such and such, you guys want such and such, sure, I want it. And then they say, oh, you gotta buy it with your own money. Okay, never mind. And I would always hold on to my money because I'm just like, I don't need it that bad. I don't want it that bad. But because I've always built that habit, I still have that habit. And so now, a lot of things, I see that I want, and I'll say, okay, do I need it right now? Can I live without it? Is it going to get cheaper in the future, or is it going to get more expensive in the future? And those are the, kind of like decision trees that I got to make in my mind. If I think that it's going to be more expensive in the future, okay, I'll go ahead and get it now. And then what I'll do is after I, buy it now, then I save back up to fill my, what is it, coffers, right? Back up.
Okay.
But I have enough discipline to do that because I always, still, I think, always think if there's going to come a time where there's going to be a surprise medical bill, surprise, your car broke down, surprise, this certain bill that's been the same every single month. And then all of a sudden, what just happened? And you call and they're just like, oh, sorry, nope, that's literally what you have to pay. I never want to be in a position where I don't have it. And so we always try to make sure that you save, even if it's a little bit every single time. I think of even give offerings. I think Mother Marjorie Brown taught us how to save up. Even Dr. Bell Lyle, she taught us how to save up to give. Right. So there's always going to be some surprise offering, and you never want it to like sneak up on you. How did the anniversary service come up? And I don't have a couple hundred. But just pulling aside just a little bit at a time where I don't see it, I don't think about it. Paycheck comes, I just pay it off, and it's I don't even think about it. But then next thing I know, surprise, there's a speaker's offering I didn't prepare for. That's okay. I have something saved up, and so just always even if it's just a little bit until you can do better. Right. But just making those decisions in your mind, you never want to have that come to a point where you need something and you don't have it.
And I'm the same way in that sense. I do not like, if there's a surprise and I don't have the money for it. Yeah. So that's why I like having it. It's so funny because sometimes something will come up and my husband's like, oh man, and I'm like, I got, yes. And so
surprise accounts.
Exactly. Yes.
We have enough. We're
good. Yes, we do. We're good. I always like having that little cushion, just in case, because you never know. There's always something that comes up. Well, I would like for you to share with us, if you're a person who, is not accustomed to budgeting, kind of lives paycheck to paycheck, what would be kind of like first steps for them to be able to kind of start budgeting?
Got you. I think one is don't be afraid. You don't have to budget every penny. You don't have to budget for, okay, I need to pull aside. When people think budgeting, they think, okay, I have to set aside money for this and set aside money for this and set aside. That's not necessarily budgeting. That's a type of budgeting.
Okay.
But that's not necessarily what budgeting is, especially when it comes to your personal budget. You know what your income is, but you also know what your monthly fixed expenses are, and you know what your monthly flexible or variable expenses are. Knowing those fixed expenses, I always try to, and this is with anybody I've ever worked with, to try to help them build a personal budget, is obviously, start with your income, start with your monthly income, even though you know that you get paid, more than once a month. But start with your monthly income and then just write out all the list of expenses.
Okay.
But then prioritize them. What is the most important? First thing out is always going to be your tithe.
Okay.
The next thing out is always going to be your offering.
Okay.
Then what's more important to you? Keeping a roof over your head or making sure you have a car to drive?
Okay.
If it's keeping a roof over your head, make sure you have your mortgage set aside or your rent set aside. Because your living expenses, whatever your housing expenses is always going to be the most expensive, split that in half. Do not try to pay those huge bills. I always say if it's more than $300-400, split it in half.
Okay.
Kind of separate that so that it doesn't, you don't live feast and famine.
Yes.
And I see a lot of people try to do that. They say, okay, well, these are all the bills that are due the 1st to the 15th of the month. And so once I pay that, I'm broke. Everyone is usually like flat broke with the first check, but then the second check, they're like, I got all this money and I can just spend it all. But if you spread that out, if you even that out some, even if your bill is due, between the 1st and the 15th, then pull some of that out of the second check, hold it aside, don't touch it, act like you haven't spent it, don't touch it. And so that way, the next time you get between the 1st and the 15th of the next month, it's already there. You've paid it off. And now both of your checks, you're not living feast and famine. You're living the same same amount each time. So always, number one, prioritize your expenses, and then figure out what can you cut back on. What can, sometimes people say, I cannot live without Netflix. I can't do it. But maybe I can spend a little less in water. Maybe I can start driving one car and save on some gas because I have to have my Netflix. That's fine. Just prioritize your expenses. If you notice, food is the one thing that takes everybody by surprise. And I did this with the purity class. And that was one thing that took them completely by surprise. You don't realize how much you spend in food. Find a way to save on your food. Find a way to pay. You don't have to eat out every day. Just because if you plan ahead of time, you don't have to, oh man, I didn't take any food out. I didn't, well, what do I have a taste for? It's okay if you have to eat the same thing for, 3 days in a row so that you can have, so that you can have enough and live within your means. It's okay. So yes, always prioritize. Always split those expenses so that they are even and you're not living feast to famine. And then the next thing is always find out what you can give up, what you can sacrifice, or what you can cut back on.
Well, let me ask you this. How do you feel about when it comes to, I know like a lot of utilities, you can do what's called like a budget plans.
Awesome.
Do you believe in those?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because I never want to be surprised. I never want to be caught off guard. And I know some people say, oh, I know that in the wintertime, the air, for whatever reason, is a lot more expensive than heat. But a lot of folks, they'll look at their bill in the wintertime and they're just like, ooh, I got Christmas money now. But then the summertime comes and it's like, I have nothing. But yes, get on a budget billing. So that way you can at least, every single month, it's not going to be more than this. But even with those budget billings, and again, this might just be on me, but I have caught a few things and got a few checks back from that. Track, even though they're charging the same thing every month, track what you're actually spending. Track what you're actually spending, because what they will try to do is at the end of the year, when they reconcile your account, if you have not reconciled your own account, then they'll just say, oh, we owe them some money. Well, we'll just slide it into the next bill. No, give me a check. Give me a check. And keep my bill the same. Keep my bill the same and give me my check back, and I can buy myself a pair of shoes. I can buy my Netflix for the next month. But yes, always reconcile yourself, even if you do the budget bill.
Yes, because I am a big fan of budget billing. So I always I always pay the same amount. So so that it doesn't take me by surprise, which I really like, because I don't like surprises. And then also another good thing about some bills, is you can kind of choose when to pay them.
Yes.
So instead of saying, and which is a kind of a thing that they do now with a lot of things, you know, where you don't have to pay everything at the beginning of the month and then live feast or famine, like we were saying, where you can decide, you know, no, this one I don't want to pay on the first, I want to be paying it on the 20th of the month. Yes, that way I get my check on the 15th and I have enough money to pay and I have the, you know, a few days to pay it. So that kind of works.
Another one that people don't think about is automatic withdrawal.
Okay.
With automatic withdrawal it is going to take some discipline because you're going to have to make sure you go into the account or wherever whoever's billing you.
Right.
Go into your account and make sure every month before they pull it out, make sure you agree with that number. However, most companies will give you a discount for doing the automatic billing.
Yes, they do.
And I'm telling you,
$5
$5 here, $3 here,
Yes.
$2.50 for allowing them to pull it out directly out of your bank account rather than a credit card, you know, having to pay that convenience fee or whatever. It adds up, it adds up, it adds up.
Yes.
So just, you know, again, watch them though, so that they don't end up pulling something
Right.
surprise. But watch them before it bills. They will always tell you before they pull it out, they'll say, hey, just a reminder, dig into your emails and find that email.
Yes.
Hey, just a reminder, or your bill is going to be automatically withdrawn in 3 days. Here's the amount. Oh, I don't agree with that amount. Pick up the phone and start talking.
Yes,
You know?
and I'm a fan of that also. I like you know, when they take it up, I like the savings that you get. Some of them are pretty significant. You know, percentage wise, really significant. Saying, you know, if they allow, they'll put that out front. Hey, if you enroll in automatic withdrawal, we'll give you 5% off.
And then another benefit of it, but another benefit of the automatic withdrawal is it's always paid. It's always paid.
Yes.
And so then when you get paid, when you get your check, cover it so that all your bills are paid. But because because if you allow them to automatically withdraw, it will always be paid on time. And as they see that, wait a minute, this person pays their bills on time every time, then your credit starts going up. Then they start to give you other incentives because they say, you know what, you're never going to get charged a late fee. You're never going to get charged interest because it's always paid and it's always there. It's a load off your mind that you don't have to think about. Ooh, how do I rob Peter to pay Paul? And, you know, you don't have to start playing those, you know, mouse, cat, and mouse games with your checks. Because it's already going to come out, and as soon as you get paid, you cover that, and now you're good to go.
I love it. I love it. Another thing I'm a big fan of, and I'm sure you use this too, is well, she's a couponer too. I should say she's a Grouponer.
I do like it.
She's but one of the things that I rewards points.
Oh yeah,
I absolutely love rewards, and I join all of them. All of them. They're all free to sign up because they're all free to sign up. So I join them all, and what I do is I have a specific email just for them. You know, so if they fill up full of junk, I specifically send them to a certain one. And then, but what I do is like now is if I'm going to a store, I need a particular thing. Let's say I need to go to Old Navy. All I gotta do is go search in my email, Old Navy. Let's see which coupons do I have. You know, if I want to go out to eat, let me see which coupons do I have. So I join rewards and then use my points for so many different things. And now the points, you don't just have to use them for the particular thing, you know, like your hotel points. I have a card that gives me points, and I don't like their hotels. So what I do is, but I like their credit card. So what I do is I actually get gift cards.
Yes.
To Amazon.
Yes.
To, you know, to out for dinner restaurants because I'm always in Amazon. So like anytime, sure.
Or for gifts for other people.
Gifts for other people.
That's another build, or you know, the
benefit
budget line.
And boy, don't you love going to a hotel that's paid by points?
Yes.
Love it. Yes. I love it. I love saving my points.
I use mine for I have one that's cashback rewards.
I have that too.
And so I'll just let the cash accumulate, and then one day when I'm short on cash, or I'm like, oh, I need to pay this bill, but do I really want to pull it out? And then I see my cashback rewards are huge, and I'm like, well, we can pay that bill off, you know.
Yes.
And another one I've used my points for now is to either offset some of the charges on your card, because you can now use the points to pay charges off on your card, or I can use it on Amazon. I don't have to get a
that's what I do too.
Gift card. It just says, hey, do you want to use some of your points?
Yes.
Sure. I don't know how I have 60,000 points, but sure, pay for this entire thing. Right off of Amazon for me.
Yes, I do the same thing.
This is not a commercial for you.
It's not. But no, but I do the same thing. And another thing I love to do, I finally got a credit card that gives me miles for flying because I fly a lot now. So I got one just particular for that. But one thing I'm going to say about these credit cards and stuff is that if you are not disciplined to pay it off every single month, do not get them, even though they're rewards points, whatever. Don't get it. Leave it alone because they make money off of people who don't pay off their balances at the end of the month.
Yes.
That is how they get you. And let me tell you, those $300-$400 or a couple $1,000, when you look, and they are now required to put how long it will take for you to pay this off. If you only pay the minimum, which they tell you never do that, you'll see that, wow, it started off only as, a couple of hundred, and it's going to take me, like 10 years to pay. And by that time, look at all the money they made off of you. So don't do
and
it.
then you keep sliding
every time,
adding more money to
more
this balance.
Yes. And then if you don't pay it on time, if you're a person who has a hard time paying things on time, don't do it because they're just going to make money off of you. So you have to be very, very disciplined to pay your balances off at the end of the month. If you
just remember, it's not income. It's not income.
It's
so
not.
If you would not put it on your own bank account, don't put it on a credit card.
That's right.
Only put on the credit card what you know you're going to pay off. And again, that all comes back to your budgeting. You do that, take that income and all of those expenses.
And do it. And what I do now, because I used to be I was a debit card person, is that I have a credit card now that whenever I use it, all I got to do it, it'll say, do you want to pay right now? I'm like, yeah, okay. So I pretend like I use my debit card. So it's like, I use that one and then boom, and pay it right off.
Same here.
It's just like, but just like as if I was using my debit card, knowing that I only have a certain amount of money in this account. And when this amount, and when, it gets, there comes a cutoff point.
The credit limit is not your credit limit. Your actual budget, that is your credit limit.
Yes, and that's the way it is, because again, there is such a thing called your credit and your credit history that they look at when it comes, one day you're going to need to go. And it's so funny because it took me by surprise when I had no idea what credit was when I was younger, anything like that. And one day, then when you go to buy, one day a car or a house or something, it's like, what? There's a what? What do these numbers mean? I don't know any of this stuff. So I had to learn.
26% interest? That sounds great.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So I didn't know anything. And again, it's so important. It's so important that we budget. It's so important that we prioritize. It's so important that we live within our means, because again, it's not that you're denying yourself. It's just that you got to learn how to live. You can't judge yourself by other people.
Be a good steward
of what God has given you. And then when you get a raise, and again, become a steward. Don't increase your living like we do. But it's so important. But again, thank you, Deanna. I want to thank you so much for coming and talking to us a little bit about budgeting. I know you're the budgeting expert. Yes. So, and that's one of the things that we have in common is we're savers. We like to save our money, and we're very frugal with our money. So again, I want to thank you. So please tune in next time where we're going to pick another topic and we're going to talk. So, bye-bye.